Sylvia Plath said, all my poems are love poems. And I doubt that very many people here would disagree with that. So I thought I'd start with a love poem. That's from which the title of my book came. It was published in the White Pelican Review. It's called Across My Silence. Beyond probability, your arms move across my silence like summer moves, meadow by meadow, up the mountain, no corolla uncovered, no shadow alone. Opening everywhere the hearts of small lost voices, you reinvent me in your gentleness, quantum by quantum, thought by thought, like summer is a thought buried in the snow, imagining your waist. You are why it's so hard to believe that sunlight can be frozen, that most of everything is darkness, that whatever cannot be measured cannot be there. Here's a more recent poem from a large publication called Out of Hour. It's like it's missing a word. They didn't leave any words out of mine though. It's called The Sea Inside. The sun overcomes its darker urges, sloughs off its pink woolly blankets, and surveys the remains of yesterday. The bird's chain shifts. The river of morning wiggles on toward the sea inside, and it's July in the west on a heating planet. And your worries occupy the air like the sound of leftover firecrackers. What if you have to work until you're 92, like that World War II vet who hands out sausage samples at the market? Or eat rattlesnakes, cut your flour with bark, boil your water with old shoes like hobos did in the Depression? Or what if you let yourself forget that room in Paris, in Tokyo, hell in Topeka, the one above the sidewalk cafe where you could sit all day and drink in her fragility, her aptitude, her moon-made skin? Thank you. I'll read a couple of new poems. This one's called If. If you were a new moon in a beauty contest, your smile would break all the rules and you'd win every time. If you were a butterfly and tasted your food with your feet, you'd be sent to your room without dessert, and I would follow, cleaning your toes in my mouth. If you were a self-pollinating tomato, you'd be arrested in 42 states. But your open flower, your lovingness disinvites solitude. You are never autumn dying and coming back year after year. You are starlit. You are unseasonably alive. There's another new one. I always have this issue about where things belong, especially in L.A., the poem about L.A., Jacques. You never know where anything comes from or where it belongs. Common wonder. On the table, equatorial bananas. In the fridge, Aztec tomatoes. Over the sand, Kentucky bluegrass. We ignore where things belong, spewing confusion among birds and bugs. At the bank, they asked me what I do for a living, and I considered which of myselves to reveal. To the trees, I'm a breather, an exhaler of feast. Together, we are first responders. We mutually resuscitate. To the soil, I am the tiller, a channeler of rain. Soil and self merge as Messiah. We toil to save a share of the world. To you, my love, I am the traveler, a hand across time. We keep each other guessing. Together we unearth amplitude. Always remember I am fully vested in our common wonder. I earn my living in small acts of belonging. And then there's the kind of love that is, I guess they call it unrequited, and in the publications that I often submit to, they say no poems about unrequited love. Oh. But I'm going to read one. They say nothing about reading. It's called If Only. I thought all the missing was over until they moved out your desk at work, and 2 old photos I had taken but didn't know you'd kept had fallen on the floor beneath. The one of all the seemly ladies lined up against a black limo as long as wishful thinking, where I can now see some secret part of you belongs. And the one of that smitten benefactor with his arms snaked around your shoulders, leaving you with a help me smile and 1 foot off the ground, as if you would have soared out of the frame and into the air above me. If only there had been a time and a place to fall. We, in a good old-fashioned way, we broke each other's hearts. What we didn't do, we did with style. That was nice of James to mention the curve and the poem that is now in the pile that might be chosen for the Pushcart Prize. It's called Shrew, and maybe the reason they chose it was because it's in the shape of a shrew, but we'll see. In this matter of dark matter, this grasping at the ungraspable, our wizards of Wonderland are staring into holes for a new religion, hoping to answer new ultimate questions. What holds the universe together? What binds us all? I'm thinking, if not this nervous bargain with time, if not this gravity of ignorance, perhaps the matter of the shrew, that mere idea of a mammal, that thumb-sized pennyweight born naked and blind in a nest of grass, so innocent, so unguarded it can die from loud noises, even from thunder. A shrew can go unnoticed, unnamed its whole life. Like a star, like love, it can be gone before we see it. About these love poems, of course, they go deep into nature, like maybe the shrew. And, there's no single bird for me that speaks of love than the hummingbird. Garcia Lorca had a line about kissing the hummingbird of love between your teeth. This is about a hummingbird on the ground where they don't belong. Outside yourself. In the sense that a baby hummingbird can fall at your feet and you can stoop to see that it was born with 1 withered wing and would never fly or find its own food, and that you can cradle it in your hands with its shivering heart and lift it out of the dirt to give it ambrosia through a straw, and that you are able to decide its fate, be in charge of its chances in this sense, you are a god. In the sense that you don't know if the bird will live or die in your care, or what you will do about the job or the cat or the long nights, and that you decide to return it to the thick bush it fell from, where it will surely open its mouth and cry from its tiny gullet until its tongue shrivels and its good wing grows limp and its feet curl and its lost eyes close forever. In this sense, you are merely human and do not want to be a god. This fallen bird, this ornament of the firmament, now lies on withered wings in the eternity of the wakeless sleep. It is your teacher in the lonely lesson of wildness. You can live outside yourself in the sky, but you cannot be a god of only beginnings. Thank you. And I think even the elements are worth our love, whether they're wind or rain or fire. This one's about fire. You cannot have a little jar of wind or a bowl of lake. No such thing as a pet cloud or a private wave or a corner in the living room just for moonlight. But you can have your very own furious fire right next to you as you read and gaze and sift your thoughts through cognac. Having a fire is like having a caged tiger. If you don't feed it, it will die. If it escapes confinement, it will eat you alive. But it is not your friend and lover. And you know this on a winter's day, holding your glass with both hands. You know this because fire you can get back anytime it goes away. I worked on a farm in the 60s when the Army would have preferred I work in a rice paddy somewhere. And I met this man, Leonard, on the farm. He had less than a dozen teeth, wore shoes with 10 years of pig shit, kids here, a feed cap from Conag. He lived in a trailer on a wide spot in the road with his wife, who stayed indoors from a lung condition and always had to remind him to change for dinner. He offered 3 questions before he hired me to put up hay, and he answered them all himself because he needed the help and he didn't want to know how dumb I was. If one set of lug nuts rusts away and the wheel on your truck falls off, he asked, how do you attach your spare? With one nut from each of the other wheels. If your rotten old wagon works but can only bear half a load, what would make you haul it back to the field? When your shiny new wagon snaps an axle because it couldn't handle twice as much like the dealer claimed it would. And when do you say no to the fertilizer guy who wants you to trade in your manure spreader for his fancy white powder? When your pigs are healthy with only the corn you grow yourself, not after their gums are bleeding, not after you find out you have to add flesh to their feed, not after your wife is dying. Hard to find love in that traffic. Right, Jacques? Advantage. Snarled in traffic, I take up a grill-like grin as fellow roadsters augur for car-length advantage on a rainy Friday afternoon. A 4.7-liter Mustang GT prances back and forth in the lanes, its rider resentful of his confinement to this corralled stallion of broken promise. An old Dodge with a missing bumper skids and darts defiantly, as if in denial of its past indignities, the driver refusing to look. These hostile attitudes and dangerous moves used to bother me, spawning the mean language of self-righteousness and envy like hurtful rumors. I trace my change of heart to death. Death of my sister and parents, my favorite aunt and admired uncle, which somehow evoked the death of so many children in the world, of democracy as we used to imagine it, of stars even. If stars can die without our knowing it, what does it matter if I get to happy hour 2 minutes before the next jerk? You can make yourself happy just by smiling more. And this last poem is, well, it's kind of for you. It's called Some People. There are some people you know you're going to like even before you meet them. Men who cover their yawns, women who wear backpacks, little girls with mud on their faces, little boys who read, anyone who picks daisies or pets stray cats, the glass man with a purple dinosaur glued to the tailgate of his truck, the gardener with an old "more trees, less bushes" bumper sticker, the waitress cleaning up maple syrup all over the high chair who smiles like it was her fault and says, "Someday I want to have kids." Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Hey, thanks, good. Thank you.
Jack, thank you so much. Another round of applause, people. Jack,